Hey y'all, it's Natalie and I'm here for a cherry on top crafts, and it's time for the monthly design team hop, and today our theme is gather. So I have gathered my autumn supplies, which if you go back to one of my unboxing videos, I'll post it down below, but you can see where I have a bunch of different products from different lines. I have Graphic 45, I have some fancy pants, I have a lot of 49 in Market, and I have some cider and donuts from Simple Stories. I'm going to combine them all. I even have some Minty chippies. I'm going to combine them all to create a really fun autumnal layout using our theme of gather. I'm going to use this as my background paper from 49 in Market, which is actually really fun because it's the back side of like the packaging. And I'm trying to come up with 4 strips. And I'm trying to just go through the papers and see which ones I want to use. So I'm going to go with that wood grain and a solid, and then 2 patterns. And the 2 patterns actually end up both being from cider and donuts. And I have these 4 2x3 photos. It's 2 by 3 inches, and I trimmed them down. They're of us at my grandparents for Thanksgiving last year. And I'm going to see which way I would like to have my strips. And so when I was trying to figure out what to do for the theme, obviously I think gather around the Thanksgiving table is like a thought for November, but I also was thinking like gather as in I wanted to do like a gather stitch. I don't know if you've ever sewn on actual fabric, but there's a way, and I learned this a long time ago, but you put 2 parallel stitches and you like pull it really taut, and then it gathers your fabric for you. Well, I did a few trial and error pieces on some paper and I was not getting good results, but I was like, I'm not going to be deterred. It's still a gather if I kind of hand make my ruffle. So that's what I'm doing. I distress the edges, and I'm doing a really distressed, really messy, handmade gathered paper here. So I'm just kind of pleating the paper, and then I'm going to stitch it so that I have gathered paper on each of my little rows. Now, I love distress and I love super messy. You can make really nice pleats. You could go to your scoreboard and do very uniform scores, or even like you don't have to do every score line or whatever. You could do every 2, then every 4, and get like a really fun, different variation, but neat gathers. But for me, I, of course, really like distress. So I'm just going to do it wonky. I'm going to do it where maybe a little bit of the backside could be seen. That's my jam. So I'm really loving the way these looks. I think that it gives lots of good dimension and texture to the page. And, yeah, so that's why I just kept this in here for you to see how I did it. But again, you could do them very uniform and nice and neat. I would suggest using a scoreboard for that. Now I have my video assistant, Heath, doing a quick camera work for me on my sewing machine for just a couple of these. So you can see I'm just guiding it through with a simple stitch. I do back stitch on the front and the back of each strip, but I am just making sure that each of the folds kind of stays where I want it as I move it through under the footer. And it went really nicely. And I will say, I did all 4 of them. The 49 in Market paper is very thick, and it went through that just as nicely, even though it was bunched up and, layered over a couple of times. It was no problem. So there I'm just back stitching, and then I leave a nice little tail on either end. And so it keeps that gather in place. It keeps all the folds in place. I also use the free cut file. I'll link that down below, from a cherry on top for that word gather. It's available in the store for free, which is a nice little gift. And so I was inspired by my friend Jessica Michaels to cut the gather word 3 times and layer it up, because I saw her do that the other day and I was like, why have I never layered my cut files like that? It's so gorgeous. And I sneak peek, it turned out amazing. So thanks to Jessica for that idea. It is a cute idea. So I cut it in white because the bright white of the background paper from 49, see, I did a little dance from 49 in Market. I wanted some pops of that. And then I wanted to pop out that pink quite a few times. And so I definitely wanted that to be the top layer. And then I added an orange in because I didn't think I had enough orange on the page. So each of my photos I have backed in some white cardstock, and now I'm just placing everything on the page exactly where I want it, because I want to make sure that when I start pulling my embellishments in, that everything's well balanced. So some of my gathered strips are going to be a little off to the right or a little off to the left, depending on where the photo is. And now I'm going through the Cider and Donuts die cut ephemera. This one is the floral bits and pieces, I think is what it is called, foliage maybe. And that's the Mente chippies. It's like some fall chippies, autumn chippies. I'll link all of this stuff down below with my affiliate links if you are interested in it, as long as it is still in the store. That is a spice collection by 49 Market. That came out last year, but we still have a ton of it in the store, and it's so gorgeous, and it's timeless. I love it so much, and all that bright color, I just love it. So now I'm going to let you watch me melt the embossing powder, because why not? I'm using Wow Embossing Powder. I think that's a Sizzix embossing pad, just because that's the stickiest one. I have like 3 different ones. But I am just pressing them down onto the pad and then putting the beautiful embossing powder on top. And this one kind of all poured out really quickly, so I have to dig around and find it with my tweezers. Tweezers are really good for embossing. And don't worry, I know it looks like I'm low on this glittery gold embossing powder, but I have a backup. Never fear. I zoomed in here so you can see the nice melty goodness, because that is satisfying, right? And I am super thrilled with how these turned out. I will say I did 2 layers. So this is just layer 1. I do go back, and once it's all melted on there nicely, you know, it's not a mess. So I just pressed it right back onto the pad and covered it up with the powder again and melted again. Just didn't feel the need to keep that in the video. So now I've placed everything back onto my page, mostly where it will be. I'll move things around a little bit. See, I'm still auditioning things in different places, but that's okay. But I have like the fall colors on all the embellishing, the bright white of the 49 Market in the background. I want to use this white linen spray from Delusions, and I want to put it all over all of my embellishments and all over my pattern paper. So I am removing the photos because I don't want the splatters to go in the photo, and I'm going to town. I'm going to splatter all over everything as it lays, and then I've just like left it there to dry. Actually let it dry overnight. And I even splattered on top of the heat embossed what do you call it, chippies and everything. So I just love this extra like distressed nature that it added to my page, and it brings that bright white from the background into the foreground, into all of the embellishments and pattern papers, and I just love it. So it got on the background paper, no big deal. I am going to ink up the edges just a little bit with this Gathered Twig Distress Oxide. I just thought it needed something. I thought about ripping the edges a little bit, but I ended up having a lot going on the middle of the page. So I'm glad that I just went with inking up the edges, because it's a lot, but so am I. So now we're ready to stick it back where it goes. And then I move that pumpkin over to the left, and I actually really like it over there. And so I'm just going to kind of place everything exactly where I want it before I commit to sticking everything down. I thought about sticking the photos up on some foam tape, but honestly, we got a lot of dimension going on with those like sewn gathered strips. So I felt like I didn't need to add any additional dimensions. So I end up just kind of sticking them down on top of the page directly. But I don't, bring the adhesive all the way to the edge of my foliage, because I do like to fluff up the edges there. Like you can see what I just did with that floral. And I'm just making sure that I have room with everything else, making sure I don't leave myself not enough room at the bottom. So I'm just using my tape gun to stick everything down, and then I'll also go in with my wet glue. I like to use Nuva Deluxe adhesive, and I got the little precision nozzles recently, and I really like those a lot. This is a design team hop. So there is a list of all of the participants down below. If you hop along and leave a comment on each video, you'll be entered for a chance to win $25 in store credit at A Cherry on Top. And you know what's coming up in November? Black Friday. And Cherry on Top does Black Friday deals big, y'all. They do so many amazing bundles and deals every year, so I cannot wait. And there's all kinds of good Christmas goodies in the store already, and I'm sure we're gonna get more in. Oh, so good. So this is just a little background, a picture of my kids with my grandparents. So they are their great grandparents. My grandmother hosts Thanksgiving at her home every year, which is lovely. And then that is a beautiful cheese spread that my aunt brought last year. And then my plate of all the delicious food that my grandmother made, and then a picture of my little family of 4. We had about 20 of them because, of course, between the 2 boys being silly and goofy, it took a few shots, right? So there you can see, I just kind of offset when I put those 3 gather die cuts together, and I'm so thrilled with how they look. And you can see each color just a little bit. I'm super happy. That's definitely going to be a new technique that I'm going to do multiple times. So I just went through the Spice die cut ephemera pack, and I'm combining it with the Cider and Donuts die cuts, and then of course the Mente Chippies. So I'm just placing them around the page. I'm kind of softening up the edges, trimming down that one little phrase so it will fit nicely onto the label. I was going to use my tiny attacher, and then I was like, you know what? No, I don't really have other metallics besides the embossing powder. I don't really want to put that industrial kind of look, the staple, on my page today. So I'm going to use this foam tape. I'm actually going to double it up twice to pop up the 2 little phrases on the page to kind of meet the dimension of some of the other things, because that gather thing, it was layered up 3 times and it's placed on top of all the other dimensional elements. So I felt like a couple of foam tapes under those 2 smaller elements are good, but then it doesn't really make the whole layout bulky. So there you see I'm using my Nuvo adhesive to stick down that chippy and kind of just tucking things under everything. I like for it to touch. I like to tuck under. I like to nestle, and that way everything really looks like it goes well together, even if they're from different collections. So if you aren't really like taken all at once by a single autumn collection or whatever theme we're looking at, just make your own. Go in there and make a kit. It's super fun. My friend Sarah did a kit, and she kind of put it on her wish list and kind of told everybody like, hey, you can buy these same things and like watch me make with them on our channel. And I think that idea is super fun. I might be taking her up on that idea sometime soon if I can get my act together. But make a kit, pull different elements from different collections. And a lot of times if the companies are going by trends, they will have the same color palettes and things like that, and it will be really easy to mix and match, which I love to do. There needed to be a little something under that photo, so I added a pine cone, but I needed to add a little bit of splatter on it. So now I'm finishing off my layout with some beautiful brown flatback pearls and some like bronze sequins. So that's what you see me doing here. I'm just going around and adding those in, and we're going to call it a layout. Thank you so much for watching, and I hope that you've enjoyed this. I hope you are inspired. Make sure to hop along and see all of the layouts that all the other design team members created, and leave comments for a chance to win store credit. And check out the links down below, and let me know if you have any other questions, because I love to help you guys and find products for you. If you need suggestions, let a girl know. Thanks so much for watching. Bye, y'all.